Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo Podcast. I'm Joey Calvo. Today, actually, before we get started, two quick things. One, please help out the victims of the California wildfires. They still need help, even though it has been 4 months since the fires, and some of the victims still need assistance rebuilding. The other thing is, this podcast has a GoFundMe page going on to expand and upgrade the way this podcast is going to be done. So it's on the ticker. And also you can go to, pardon me a moment. Give me a moment here. I will have it right up here on the screen. And you can go to that website, GoFundMe, and you can share that with all your social media as well. All right. And so tonight our guest is Frank King. He is a former writer of The Tonight Show and comedian who speaks on suicide prevention and knows what the barrel of a gun tastes like. Yeah. So, Frank, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, sir.
All right. First question I have before I actually go into you introducing yourself and how we got to this, and I know it's going to be part of your introduction of who you are. Which version of The Tonight Show? Because there were so many. You had Johnny, Jay, Conan, and Jimmy Fallon. Oh, you also got Jack Parr in the original.
Yes, and there was somebody else, Jack Parr and Steve Allen.
Steve Allen was the first one, yes.
Yeah. Leno,
okay. I enjoyed his versions of The Tonight Show. Now, did you get a chance to work with Stuttering John Melendez?
No, I was actually working at a distance. We were initially, when Jay was just the guest host, we were called fax writers. We faxed in jokes every day. Actually, we faxed in jokes every day when Johnny said, I'm taking a vacation. Mm-hmm. Usually told the staff on a Friday night, I'm taking next week off. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, Jay has 4 nights, 18 jokes per monologue cobbled together. So he started hiring road comics like me, to write for him. And then when he got the show for real, he let most of the contract labor go, kept some of us on, and we stayed with him until he left for CNBC.
Okay. All right. So otherwise, Frank, tell us about how we got to, pre-Jay and post-Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh! He's already going to start something on me.
Yeah.
I love cats.
Well, we have 6 rescue kitties.
Well, that's a great thing. You must have got a hold of Howard Stern then too.
Well, you start adopting cats, Joey. People find out and they call you. Hey, I got a cat living in the backyard. Bring your live trap. 6, 7, who cares? Started comedy in the 4th grade. Told my first joke. Kids laughed. Teacher was hysterical. Mm-hmm. And so I thought to myself at 9 years old, I'm going to be a comedian. Mm-hmm. And then 12th grade, talent show. Ms. Dyson, my drama teacher, never gave me a speaking part in 3 years of drama. So I thought, you know what? If I do stand-up, I can write, direct, and star in my own little show every night. So at the talent show, nobody ever done stand-up before.
Yeah.
I won. Of course, I beat the accordion player and the folk dancer. So not a tough victory. And then I was going to go to LA, and my mom said, no, you're going to college first. I don't care what you do when you get done. You can be a goat herder for all I care.
Yeah.
A goat herder with a college degree.
Yeah.
So I went to UNC Chapel Hill, got a couple of college degrees, and then I bolted for the West Coast. Insurance company I was working with moved me to San Diego. Mm-hmm. Beginning of the end of my insurance career, because in San Diego, to this day, there's a branch of the Comedy Store, the world famous one up on Sunset.
Yeah.
In La Jolla, it's still there. Matter of fact, Joey, this month is 40 years since my first open mic night.
Wow.
Yep. And halfway through my first 5 minutes, I heard a voice inside my head. You're home.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it. And then of course it led you to be a writer on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
Yep.
And and of course, I was a fan of Johnny Carson, and then I did watch a little bit of Jay. And folks, I asked him about Stuttering John before we got started, because Stuttering John was part of the Tonight Show back then too, as the announcer. And then, of course, he was let go, and then Conan took over after that, and then now it's on Jimmy Fallon. And I'll give Jimmy Fallon credit for bringing it back to New York, because in reference to it, I believe Jack Parr. I don't know if Jack Parr started it in New York, or Steve Allen started it in New York, or he started in California. But I know somebody else brought it to New York at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Leno was definitely Burbank.
Yeah, I know Leno was Burbank, and I know Johnny was Burbank. I wasn't sure if it was Conan or Jack Parr. It was one of the two. But so then after Leno,
then in '95, I got a job in radio in my old hometown after being on the road for 2,629 nights.
Mm-hmm.
And so in April 94, which would be 20 years ago, I got a job at a radio station, my old hometown, Raleigh, and did that for about a year and a half. And then by the time I got done, the comedy club scene was fading.
Yeah.
I jumped to corporate comedy,
mm-hmm.
which is after dinner, after lunch at conferences.
Right.
And every now and then somebody asks, what's the difference between a club comic and a corporate comic? Roughly $5,000 a night plus travel.
Wow.
Yeah. Some of my purest comedy friends said, "You sold out." I go, "Yeah, I'm a whore, but I'm a high price whore."
Oh, that is too good. That is too good.
And then the recession hit. And all of corporate speaking dropped off like 80% overnight. Nothing left.
Wow.
And that's when we filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and that's when I learned what the barrel of my gun tasted like.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. Spoiler alert, I did not pull the trigger. And when speaking came back.
Well, if you did, you wouldn't be here.
That's correct.
Yeah.
When speaking came back,
mm-hmm.
meeting planners said, "Look, Frank, we love you. We can't pay you that kind of money anymore just to be funny. You got to teach our audience something." And I had no idea what. I always wanted to make a difference somehow.
Yeah. And
then I got to thinking about my mental illnesses, my near suicide, the fact there are more nuts in my family than in a squirrel turd. And I thought I could
on this podcast. I don't edit these, so you can say all the shit you want.
Well, and so I thought I could keynote on suicide prevention if I got some training, which I did. I got some training in suicide prevention. Mm-hmm. And then my next thought, Joey, was, well, who's going to take me serious after 2.5 decades of comedy?
Right.
So I did my first TEDx on suicide prevention to prove to meeting planners, speakers bureaus, I could do something serious with humor.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing ever since, shortly after the recession ended.
Well, great. And so you see, folks, remember I just mentioned about that GoFundMe page? Wouldn't it be wonderful to have Frank come down to Atlantic City and actually you get to meet him in person and have him sign autographs, and maybe you could ask him questions like our number one fan's going to ask in a few minutes. So you were mentioning about what the barrel of a gun tastes like.
Yep.
I actually was before. I know it's not the greatest thing, and thank God with what I went through, because I also thought about suicide back in 2012. What happened was I had this nice apartment really close to where I live right now. And what happened was I met this person, and you know how you were joking about that you became a corporate comedian whore. Yeah. Well, I kind of met she would say she was considered like a prostitute whore.
Okay.
And she had kids. So instead of money for rent, I was paying for her kids' lunch and diapers and stuff.
Oh.
And it got to the point where I fell behind and I lost the apartment.
Oh, boy.
So I was walking over the South Street Bridge in Philadelphia at the time. I went out and just took a walk. And I looked at the Schuylkill River, and I was just like, you know what? I'm done. You know, I was done. And then I had a little voice in the back of my head. So I didn't need a gun. I had a voice in the back of my head, though, who I'm very close to these days, and since then, came into my head. Just reminded me that she would miss me if I was gone.
Wow. Okay.
And that stopped me right there. And so I, ever since then, I didn't have thoughts of suicide. Well, I kind of had a little flashback about a month ago. Coming up on a month. I had just celebrated my birthday last month.
Yeah.
And I got a room. And I'm doing that soon. I had a room at Bally's Atlantic City.
Okay.
And I had an ocean view. I had an ocean view and everything. And you heard me mention about the GoFundMe, and and I wind up losing my job at Amazon. But that's not what was hurting me. I mean, I was kind of hurt because I had a meniscus tear in my right knee. But they let me go because of the absenteeism, not because of the knee. So they told me I could apply. So like in the next 2 weeks, I can go back and apply for the job I had.
Okay.
But I was starting to get a little depressed because I had been working on this GoFundMe to try to improve this podcast. And I was getting all this negative feedback, and, people saying, oh, you should just go get a job and then you can be able to do this. Well, it's kind of hard to get a job when you have a little bit of a past that, you can't clean up.
Right.
Plus, and I don't mention that past on here. So that's a whole different story. Plus, being unemployed and, and deep down, I really don't want to go back to working, because ever since then, I found out I got arthritis in both knees, and I just got through sciatica in the right leg. So it's kind of getting harder for me to really work per se,
right,
standing for hours. So this podcast has been my therapy, according to a psychiatrist I went through. So I really want to work on this, but at the same time, I had mentioned just now about, with the GoFundMe, about doing a meet and greet in Atlantic City. Where I'd have former guests come down and they'd meet, their fans up close and personal. Yep. We lost Frank. We just lost Frank. I hope I didn't make him uncomfortable. I lost Frank. 2 out of 3, I probably made him uncomfortable because I was carrying on about me. Oh, let me try to get him back, folks. I wasn't meaning to do that. Oh, there. Yep.
Joey, my Starlink dropped out. I'm sorry.
We got Frank back, folks.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Starlink.
I'm truly sorry. I got carried away. I was starting to think I did something.
Oh, yeah, you did. It's your fault, Joey.
Oh, great. Darn. All right. So I'll skip the rest of that story. All right. So now we have our. I'm going to introduce the podcast number one fan, number one supporter in real life superheroine.
Oh, okay.
Her name is American Fox, and we have questions for you from her.
Mm-hmm.
And the first question we kind of already talked about was, how was it like working on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno?
Well, you know what? And I don't know if people know this, but he's a really nice guy. And I've had several open heart surgeries. And after my first one, once I got to a regular room, he was the first phone call I got.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, that's the good news. The bad news is a comic friend of mine was in the room. I couldn't reach the phone. A comedian friend of mine picked it up, thought somebody was joking and doing a Leno impression, and hung up on him.
Oh, no. Ouch.
He called back. No, this really is Jay Leno. Oh, man.
Yeah, like I said, he was great on the Tonight Show. I mean, he made the Tonight Show fun. So thank you for that.
Yeah, really nice guy.
Yeah. I'm not saying Jimmy Fallon's great. I mean, of course, nobody could be like Johnny. But I mean, Jay had his own way. And I mean, if you ever speak to him again, let him know that I am a fan of his. And one day I will get to. Matter of fact, he does come down. I think he was in Atlantic City recently. I just couldn't afford the tickets for him. But definitely let him know he's got a fan on a podcast that would love to have him on.
Well, and he when he was doing the Tonight Show, he's one of the hardest working people in show business. Mm-hmm. He would finish up the Tonight Show, mm-hmm. grab a plane at Burbank Airport,
yep,
and fly to Vegas and do a show at Vegas, and then fly home.
Wow!
And by the way, Joe, pick up $250,000 for doing that show. And some comic asked him, "What's that like?" He goes, "It's kind of like winning the lottery every day."
Boy, do I pray for that every day here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. All right. So next question from American Fox is, how are people handling depression, anxiety, thoughts of suicide in your work with clients?
Well, I speak to conferences. I speak to the top 10 at-risk occupations for suicide in the U.S., construction being number one. And I teach them how to spot the signs and symptoms of depression, thoughts, suicide, what to say and do, what not to say, what not to do, and how to find resources. So my job is to teach them how to stop a suicide, because you don't have to be a professional, mental health professional, to stop a suicide. Anybody can do it if you're just willing. If you know what you're looking for and you're willing to step in, then. And then for the people who have a mental challenge in the audience, I talk about my challenges, and I have a self-care plan, and I suggest that everybody have a self-care plan.
Okay.
So that's what I do for the people who are in the audience. I describe my self-care plan, how I came up with it, what's the thread that runs through it. And so I educate people who don't have it and should be on the lookout for it, and people who do have it.
Okay. All right. So the next question from American Fox is: have you had scary moments in your career outside outside of the suicide?
Oh yeah, yeah. Probably the scariest was in Kingsport, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the Tri-Cities in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Bristol, Johnson City, Kingsport. It was a building, a club called the Grocery Company. Old building, 3 stories downtown. It used to be a grocery, restaurant, bar, and the comedy club on the 3rd floor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm up there on the 3rd floor with a comic named Pat Miller, a friend of mine, plus size fellow, tipping the scale about 300 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
He was on this platform they built for us to get us up a little bit so that everybody could see us.
Yeah.
He stepped on a board. It broke audibly. Pow.
Oh.
And the best ad lib I've heard ever, before or since. After the board broke and everybody heard it, he turns to the audience. He goes, "Nobody panic. It's just a stage I'm going through."
Oh.
Yeah, they loved him. They hated me.
Oh, wow.
So by halfway through the act, I can't see anybody except people in the front row. However, over the shoulder of the guy in the front row is the hand of the guy in the second row with a nickel-plated 38 pointed at me with a hammer back.
Oh, wow.
So I turned sideways to make a smaller target, lowered my elbow to cover my vital organs, and I waited. And this is East Tennessee.
Wow.
So after about 90 seconds, a woman in the back yells, "Either shoot him or put it away." Oh,
God. Wow.
That would probably be the worst.
Well, you probably would have needed American Fox back then in reference to that. She's kind of like Wonder Woman. She's got the bracelets.
I see.
Yeah.
Although the bracelet's not what attracted my eye,
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to her.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the worst nights. Although I didn't get shot, so I guess it was.
That's the best. Yeah, that's the best thing. That's the best thing. Yeah. All right. So the last question that American Fox has for you is: how has your life been since you started the TEDx talks and so on?
Oh, it's been very fulfilling. My goal is to save a life a day.
Mm-hmm.
I've done 13 TEDx talks. I just did my 13th on mental health, and I've got the 14th scheduled. Okay. And hopefully I've saved a number of lives in the process. That's my goal, is to save a life a day. So hopefully I have saved, a life or two. So
okay.
And we recovered from the bankruptcy. We've, fought our way back.
That's good.
Yeah. So I would say things are good, Joey.
Okay. All right. So you can check out American Fox on Twitter, Threads, and Instagram. And it's also in the description, folks. So if you don't see it on the screen, if you can't get it to the screen, it's in the description below. All right. So thank you, American Fox, for those questions as always. So now you were saying that when someone has a thought of suicide, that they should come up with a self-care plan.
Well, before they have the thoughts, they should, daily. I have 5 things I do every day: diet, exercise, good night's sleep, meditation, medication. And I think you should have one non-negotiable. A friend of mine, his non-negotiable is journaling. If he doesn't do anything else that day, he journals. For me, it's working out. If I don't do anything else, I work out. So 5 things, one of which is non-negotiable. Okay. And the idea being to keep you from, winding down to the point where you're considering suicide.
Yeah. Okay. So you said you have a TEDx talk coming up. And you mentioned, that you talk about what you mentioned about, your story and the self-care plan, and how your goal is to save one person's life every day. And of course, you saw with American Fox, she does the same thing. She is a real life superheroine. So I mean, she does the same thing. She's out there risking her life and saving lives as well. in reference to this next TEDx talk, can you explain a little bit about where you're gonna be, and what who you're gonna be addressing? That maybe viewers that are watching may be part of it.
If they're in San Diego, it's probably going to be late 2025, early 2026.
Mm-hmm.
The theme is climate change, and I'm going to talk about the mental health impact of climate change.
Okay.
Because, it's wildfires, hurricanes, stronger and more frequent. People live on an island and the sea level's rising. Mm-hmm. They call them climate change refugees. People are forced out of their homes because of climate change.
Right.
And so depression, PTSD, anxiety,
All right. So, and this is the 14th one you said you did. Okay.
Yeah. I did 13 last, on the 10th of April.
Okay.
And this will be number 14 coming up, probably late this year, early next.
Okay. Here's a good question for you. And being, I mentioned earlier that, have you thought about doing a podcast?
Yes, I actually have one in the works called the Suicide Prevention Punchline.
Okay. All right. That's good. If you need any help about it, feel free to come out to me. I mean, because this platform that I use is really good. I've been really happy with this platform. It's cost efficient, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, like I mentioned in the beginning, before we went on, this is actually live streamed on YouTube. So, I did a quick little promotion before we got started. And I don't know if you went to your social media and presented that you were going to be on here. If anybody came to the podcast website, the YouTube website, and they clicked on the live, they could actually join this. They could actually join this live stream, and if they ask questions and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it, in reference to your podcast coming up, if this is something that may interest you, just let me know, and I'll give you the link, that you can, get this started with. And I mean, like I said, it's very cost efficient, and to be brutally honest, folks, it didn't cost me a cent.
That's good, Joe.
Yeah, it didn't cost me a cent. And believe it or not, I've done this podcast since 2019.
Wow.
And you may actually be surprised of who's been on this podcast. If you get a chance, if you go through the YouTube channel itself.
Yep.
I've had Gregory Jabara from Blue Bloods.
Oh.
He was on here 4 years ago, to be precise, when William Shatner went to space.
Yep, I remember that.
Well, Gregory Jabara and I did a podcast, and we were actually watching Shatner go into space, and we were talking about it the whole time. We were at that time, I was also recording it on an app. On the app for the podcast itself, it only gave you an hour. So after the hour, the YouTube kept on going.
Oh.
So that's the other reason why I stayed off the recording, the audio recording. Because with YouTube, we can go 2-3 hours on it.
Right.
And I've gone 3 hours with a former classmate, and we were talking about healing and stuff and other conspiracy theories, quote unquote.
Okay.
So, that's why, like I said, this platform is much better. It's easier, and it reaches out more. And plus, even after you do them, people can still watch it, constantly afterwards.
Yeah.
So that's one good thing I like about that. I also had, and believe it or not, we are very good friends, And being that you have 7 rescues, she has 2 black cats.
Mm-hmm.
She is a famous model. She doesn't like to be called supermodel.
Right.
And her name is Carol Alt.
Oh.
Yes. Oh. Yes. And her and I are friends. We follow each other on Twitter and Instagram. Yep. Yeah. The kitty cat. We get the tail.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It won't be the last time, Joey.
No. But yeah, she's been on this podcast, but she's been on the audio version of the podcast.
Oh, okay.
I've been trying to get her on the. We attempted to do Instagram, and when we did it, it only lasted a half hour, so we couldn't do it that way. So we had to do the audio version, and that broke down into 2 parts. So I'll give you the link to that, and you can look it up. Okay. And we talk about Howard Stern, and because she was in the movie Private Parts with Howard Stern.
Oh,
you didn't know that?
I did not know that.
She was the secretary at WNBC.
WNBC.
Yep. Yes. 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 And so that was a very funny movie back then. And I actually I would love, and this is one goal I've got besides this meet and greet I mentioned.
Yeah.
I want to do radio. I actually wanted to be the next Howard Stern. almost 25 years ago. Oh. I actually went to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting because I was thinking, it was like regular college, just apply, At the time, it was $8,000. I couldn't afford it.
Whoa.
And now, I actually went back in 2020 before the pandemic. And I was like, you know what? I still want to do it. I still have that, idea of doing it. Well, now it's $15,000.
Whoa.
So, but they're like, if you come up with $3,500, we can finance it. Well, I didn't have $3,500. So hopefully that is one thing I wanted to do is take this podcast and actually expand it to radio. And be on like a station like New Jersey 101.5. And I actually know radio personalities on there. And hopefully, or either do internet radio and, expand it that way. Right. But definitely wanted to expand this podcast. But I also started thinking recently, and I'll be very brief on this, I was thinking of being the next Larry King.
Oh.
Because he was on CNN with his show. And I wanted to take the podcast on like a CNN or News Nation or Newsmax, something like that. And do it that way even. And I actually know somebody who works for one of those stations. And we were in the process of it, but somehow we had a little falling out. And I haven't heard from her since. In reference to it, but I do have friends that work as news reporters. So we attempted to try to get even on a local like News 12 New Jersey and do that. Right. But of course, that didn't work too well in reference to it. So since I'm out of questions and there's no other questions coming up. Where can we find you? Where can we reach out to you if we want to talk with you about like ideas about suicide prevention?
Well, it's easy, Joey. My website is mentalhealthcomedian.com.
Okay. All right. Give me one moment.
Yeah, mentalhealthcomedian.com.
Mm-hmm. One moment. There we go. There's the website, folks, mentalhealthcomedian.com. Have you thought about, I did actually have one more question in reference to, since we're on the website, I'm talking about the website. Have you thought about going back to the comedy store, like the comedy store and the improv and all that?
Joey, I would not do another comedy club at this point unless it was part of a plea bargain.
Okay. I couldn't do stand up. I mean, I could do this, but I couldn't do stand up. I mean, I'm not you or Jay Leno or I'd like to be like Joe Rogan and get a contract for $250 million. But I mean, I may not be able to do the content he does.
Joey, if people want to see my comedy, YouTube is a place to look. On YouTube, they have a series called Dry Bar Comedy. Bar Comedy. If you type in Dry Bar Comedy, like a bar with no alcohol, Dry Bar Comedy, and my name, you'll find my special.
Okay.
Yep, Dry Bar Comedy, and just type in my name, Frank King, and you'll find my special.
Okay. I'll check it out since I have a little extra time coming up. That's my bad humor, of course. Yeah. So on YouTube, folks, check out Dry Bar Comedy. Search for Frank King.
Yep.
Go to Mental Health Comedian, and you can reach out to him, and he'd be happy to help you in helping someone who needs an intervention of some kind in reference to suicide. If you're in San Diego in 2025, 2026, and you're at a TEDx conference, who knows? You might be seeing Frank actually giving a lecture in the best possible way for you. But definitely check him out either way. Frank, I do thank you for your time. And you're welcome to come back on here. Even when that TEDx conference is coming up, when you have a specific dates and stuff, you're welcome to come back on here. When you have more things to promote, I'll be happy to help you.
I appreciate it, John.
All right. So definitely check out mentalhealthcomedian.com. Go on YouTube and look up Dry Bar Comedy. Frank, again, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. And definitely check him out. I'm going to check out his Dry Bar Comedy specials. Probably maybe tomorrow, since I have nothing better to do. After I get like tons of iced coffee in my system. That'll definitely keep me going. Or when I can't sleep at night, because I was diagnosed with sleep apnea besides anxiety and depression in 2009. So I have those nights where I can't sleep. So I'm up 1, 2 in the morning, and I'm watching like After Midnight with Taylor Tomlinson. In reference to these comedians that are out there now, who do you see, or who have you noticed has been like interesting that, if you had someone to bring on a TEDx talk with?
Bill Burr.
Okay.
One of my favorites.
Okay. I would thought maybe Bill Maher.
I've worked with Bill in the past, but not after he went to visit the president.
Oh, okay. Understandable. All right. So outside, none of the comedians that are out there today, like a Taylor Tomlinson or Pete Davidson or even Colin Jost.
There's a guy out of Great Britain called Jimmy Carr.
Yeah, he's actually going to be here in Atlantic City. I don't know if it's this weekend, but sometime this year he's supposed to be out here in Atlantic City, performing, I believe, at the Borgata.
Yeah, he and Bill Burr are my top two favorites.
Okay. Oh, so I'll have to look at. He actually does a show on he's on Amazon Prime right now. 8 out of 10 Cats, it's called.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to check that out. I've heard him before because he actually did a British version of Match Game.
Oh,
and it was funny. And he's also done there was another show that just went off the air. It was like Whose Line Is It Anyway? But a British version. It was with this guy that hosted, like he said you'd find him on the bus. I forgot his name. But he was on there as well, and I watched him. I actually tried to reach out to some of those comics out there, even, but none of them were interested. So, I mean, I enjoy American comedy, and I also enjoy British comedy. And one major, another person I would love to have on this podcast, I got the Jetsons on my phone. I should have muted it. I loved Mighty Python growing up.
Yeah.
And I would love to have either John Cleese or even Eric Idle on this podcast and really chat with them, because they did so much great comedy back then. And I would, it would be great to have. But like I said, Frank, you are always welcome to come back on. Even if you decide you want to do stand-up comedy for an hour on a podcast, here's the platform for it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So definitely check out Frank any which way possible. And thank you, everyone, for listening and viewing the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all. Take care.
Thanks, Joey.
All right. Give me a moment.